Hi everyone, today we're starting one of the most interesting projects, at least from my point of view, because I cut up the containers. You can see behind me, the walls are gone. I finally have my living space. And what I want to do today is explain to you how I cut up these containers. What mistakes did I make that cost me a lot of time and a lot of money? Next, we'll see how I reinforced the container structure after opening them and removing all the walls. Let's begin. Hi, I'm Julian. This is my container house. I'm 26 years old. I have no do-it-yourself experience, but I set myself the crazy challenge of building an eco-friendly and affordable house. I'm also trying to develop my resilience and live in harmony with nature. I'm filming all of this. I'm putting it on this channel, so subscribe if you want to follow the adventure. And I suggest we start this video right away with my biggest mistake, which cost me a lot of time and money. The plasma torch, also called plasma cutter, also called piece of junk. Really, I suggest I explain to you why this was such a big mistake, so we can put that aside, and then I'll tell you what actually worked. Let me give you some context. A few months ago, before I started building my house, I went to see several container homes to get some advice. Most crucially, ask about the mistakes I must avoid making. And I discovered that one of the most tedious tasks in building a container house is cutting the walls. And everyone who told me that cut their walls with an angle grinder. And they told me it took several months, that they used thousands of discs. So yeah, it freaked me out a bit, and I thought, okay, this job is going to be long and tedious. I need to find a solution. And during my research, I came across a pretty fantastic tool, the plasma torch. It works like an arc welder. If you don't know how it works, go check out my video that's just above. Like a welder, so we have a box, a clamp, and an electrode, except here, unlike a welder where we have a metal electrode that we melt to fuse metal, well, here we're going to melt gas to create plasma and cut metal. And the best part about all this is that the gas, we get it through a compressor, so it's just regular air, but it's sent under pressure. The plasma torch has three big advantages compared to the grinder. The first advantage is that it's much smaller and much lighter, so we save our strength. The second advantage is that the grinder uses up a lot of discs, whereas here, you just have to change the tip of the electrode from time to time, but it costs almost nothing, so we save money. And the third advantage is that it's much faster than the grinder, so we save time. So, it's for these three reasons that I bought this Parkside plasma torch for 160 euros. Parkside, for those who don't know, is Lidl's brand. They're inexpensive tools that generally work pretty well. Normally, a plasma torch usually costs between 400 and 800 euros. So I thought it probably wouldn't be amazing, but I had to give it a try. Then the second thing I had to buy was something to send the air under pressure. I had to get a 100-liter 3-horsepower compressor that sends 260 liters of air per minute. For a torch, you need at least around 180 liters of air per minute. So there you go, I wanted it to work well. It cost me 500 euros, but well, I told myself I could reuse it for sandblasting later. It was possibly a long-term investment. So now I'm at 160 plus 500 euros with the compressor. That makes 660 euros. It's a small investment, but I tell myself that I'll save hundreds, maybe even thousands of discs, that it'll go faster, so it should be profitable. I spent 2 days trying to get this thing to work. 2 days, it works, it's great, you're really happy. You stop, take a break, you start again, and it doesn't work anymore. This torch is the definition of the word random. I don't think it's the plasma torch or the technology that's the problem. It's really just that Parkside is cheap because it's crap, at least when it comes to the plasma torch. After 2 days of testing, I felt disappointed. I thought the plasma torch. I still see the potential, but I'm going to have to buy a real torch for 400 or 800 euros. It's starting to become less and less profitable, my story. But before leaving my worksite, I thought, okay, let's put the Parkside torch aside and still test the grinder to see how much of a hassle it is. Partly to motivate myself to reinvest 400, 800 euros in a plasma torch. I should have done that from the start, damn. But honestly, 80 euros for the grinder, a really, really good professional Bosch grinder. 20 euros for the discs, 20 discs that I used. In 4 hours, I had cut 12 meters of walls. In 4 hours, that means it was fast. It wasn't super annoying. It cost me 80 plus 20 euros for the discs. Why did I bother with a 660 euro crappy plasma torch? Honestly, I made this mistake, so here it is, I'm telling you, don't make this mistake. Use the grinder. Let's get to the main point. And I want to talk to you about the grinders I've used to cut my panels. After giving up on the idea of the plasma torch, my first grinder was a Bosch professional grinder. You notice them because they're blue, they're really good quality. Wired, so you never run out of battery, but be careful not to cut the cord. Yeah, that happened to me once, so it's a 125 millimeter disc, 1400 watts, that's really powerful, and it only costs 80 euros. I'll put the reference in the video description. There you go. I recommend this to you, it's the basics, and the second grinder is a bit more heavy duty. It's a 230 millimeter grinder. How many watts is it? 2100 watts, and it's still corded. This is crucial, worth around 140. I included the link in the video description for your reference. And with these two grinders, well, I had quite a bit of fun. For the discs, you'll have 230 millimeter discs. They're worth about 3 euros per disc, and the 125 millimeter discs are about 1 euro each. I recommend you go for good brands, don't buy cheap stuff, because you'll be able to cut 3 to 4 times less with them. Changing the disc isn't worth the effort. It's better to invest in good quality discs from the start. I've put some good references in the video description. Go check it out and you'll see there are several thicknesses of discs. You have discs that are 1 millimeter, 1.6, 2.5. The 1 millimeter discs cut really well because they're thinner, so there's less material to remove. However, a slight movement or bump to the sheet metal can cause the disc to get stuck and possibly shatter. It's quite dangerous as the disc is very fragile. This one here is a 2.5 millimeter disc. I cut a large part with the 2.5 millimeter discs and they work just as well. When they get stuck, they're indestructible. So honestly, the best compromise might be the 1.6 millimeter discs between sturdiness and cutting precision. Anyway, I've put all the references in the description for the discs and what I use myself. I recommend you get a bit of each so you can test them yourself and see which one suits your cutting style best. There you go. Now you know which tool not to use, you know which tool to use, good grinders and good discs. So I suggest we take a look at how I cut the wall that was behind me. Unsurprisingly, I was with Bruno when I did it. Do you remember Bruno? A year ago, I did a report at his place in his container house. He inspired me to build my own container house. So it's kind of a nice reunion. He came to help me on the construction site, so let's go check it all out. All right, Bruno, welcome to my container house this time.
Your container house is nice.
A year ago it was at your place. Now you paved the way. You see, my brother and I started cutting yesterday.
Nice to meet you, Guillaume.
Who will also help us today.
All right, very good.
We've cut quite a bit already, 18 meters yesterday, and have a good technique now.
So with the plasma, like you wanted to try?
And what about the plasma torch? Ultimately, I reverted to your advice. The grinder is the only genuine solution.
Good old basics.
There you go.
Plug it in, it works and cuts.
That's it. But the plasma torch, that could have been a good idea.
We'll try later.
For the next container house. So today I suggest we cut this wall. It's 12 meters long. So that'll open it up for the living room. And we're going to use the small grinders. And I suggest that I show you a bit of the technique, the sequence we've planned.
No worries.
You already know it, but...
Each person has their own technique.
So with the 230, we're going to do the whole floor. So here we're just going to put it on the floor and slide it.
You do the floor first. That way it allows for what? For the containers to be supported by the rest of the...
Yeah, that's it, because that's what you were telling me. If we do the top first and then when we cut the floor, it's going to fall onto the grinder.
All right, okay.
Yeah, so the bottom first. We're not going to do a lot of edges with the 230 because it's heavy.
It's a bit of a workout.
There you go, but Guillaume works out, so he'll do 1 or 2 edges with the big one.
Yeah.
But especially the floor, you know. And us with the little ones, so we have 2. We're going to make some stops.
All the vertical ones, yeah?
Yeah, all the vertical ones, because, well, 12 meters of wall, we'll never be able to get it out. So we're going to make lots of small walls, about 1.5 meters each time.
Sections and slices.
That's it. So each of us will have our little 125 and we'll make slices while he's working on the floor. And once we've divided, let's say, all of that, I'll get on the scaffolding and then I'll show in the video the technique I'm going to use. But I'm going to get on the scaffolding and cut off the entire top of the container. And each time I cut, the panels will fall one by one. And with Guillaume, you'll pick them up. You take them out, I cut.
We'll take them away. And you leave, so you, on your container compared to mine, you leave 15 to 20 centimeters?
Yes, I leave 15 centimeters. Because the structural engineering office told me that given how I organize things and since I'm putting in fewer columns than you are.
The famous construction site summers?
That's right, the construction site summers.
That's going to change.
So I leave 15 to be sure, and also because my containers are taller, 1.70 meters, while hers are 1.40 meters, so I can afford to leave 15 centimeters.
Okay. All right then.
So there you go. We're going to get started. I'll give you your sacred angle grinder.
So is it working? Does it work? It's good, it's working.
Perfect. And here we go. Noise cancelling headphones, glasses, and we're off.
Let's start cutting.
Let's go. And here I wanted to show you a little bit of the find that my father found for me, especially for the top, since I have to leave 15 centimeters. At first I drew a line and tried to follow it, but it was impossible. There were too many sparks to follow a single line.
Complicated.
So we set the top bar of the scaffolding at 15 centimeters. That way I put my grinder down and slide it along the top.
It acts as a guide. Your bar serves as a guide. It gives you a break since you're not holding it with your whole hand. The bar supports it.
As a result, I complete the top almost as fast as the bottom, despite the bottom having 230 on the ground and the top having the little one. I'll show you that. You see?
What an athlete.
I come here and I actually put it on the rail and then I just have to pull it. On the rail, it slides and cuts.
It actually serves as a guide for you.
And then I move it, the scaffolding, and what I'm going to do is cut. And when I cut, the sheet metal falls, you catch it with my brother, you take it out, I keep cutting, and we keep going. And in 30 minutes, we're done.
In 30 minutes, we eat.
Yeah, that's it. Come on, let's go. All right, thanks.
Well, thanks, Julian, for inviting me.
Thanks especially for coming, because inviting people to get covered in dust and iron for 2 or 3 hours isn't exactly great. But here we are. We finally have this part, and we can see that the waterproofing we did is great.
We're waterproof. We're good here.
Like you said before, we have running water. What I suggest is that tomorrow I'll come back when there's a little less rain. And I'll give you a little debrief of our session today. Well, here's the outcome. How did it go with the grinder? Well, really well. It was super easy, honestly. The sheet metal is 2.5 millimeters thick, so it cuts pretty well. And in terms of timing, to do the lower part of the sheet metal with the big grinder, the 230 millimeter one, it took us 45 minutes. To do the verticals with the 125, it also took us 45 minutes, but there were 2 of us working at the same time. And to do the upper part and then take each sheet out of the container, it took us, a group of 3, an hour and a half. Each person had their own grinder and knew their task. It took us 2.5 hours to cut 12 meters of wall. 2.5 hours, including the short breaks and the times when we filmed for this video. So it was pretty quick. Just to be clear, when I say we cut 12 meters of walls, when 2 containers are stuck together, there are 12 meters and 12 meters, but we only cut one part, just those 12 meters. You have to take that into account. You have to realize that for 2 people, cutting a 12-meter wall takes a good 3 hours. For the whole wall, we used about 10 125 millimeter discs at €1 each and 3 230 millimeter discs at €3 each. So in total, €20 for the discs, plus the grinders to cut 12 meters of wall. Yeah, the 660 euros for the plasma torches is still a bit hard to swallow, I admit. Now that my containers have big sections of wall missing, their structure is weakened. So I'm going to have to add some reinforcements. And to understand where I need to place these reinforcements, I need to understand where the pressure will be applied on the roof of my containers. My framework will be made up of 3 beams that will rest here, here, and here, and rafters that will be placed between these beams. The 2 beams at the ends rest on walls that haven't been cut, or only just enough to put in 1 or 2 windows. So structurally, that's not a problem. On the other hand, the main beam rests on a wall, half of which has been cut out. The main beam will be right above our heads here. And you can see that I left 6 meters of wall, but I cut out 6 meters as well. So I'll have to reinforce the ceiling here so the roof doesn't fall on my head. I have several solutions. The first, as explained, is to leave 15 centimeters of sheet metal. That helps to stiffen the upper beam so it bends less. That will be very interesting, especially for the living room and the bedrooms where there is no weight on the roof. On the other hand, here it will be important, but definitely not enough because we have the main beam that will go through here. So for my kitchen, I have 2 options. Either I can put a beam with I-beams along the 15 centimeters of sheet metal, like Jan did in his container house, for example. It works great and looks nice, but it's pricey. To begin, expect to spend around 750. And it's quite complicated to set up because it's very heavy and requires good welding. And the second solution, I could put up posts like Bruno did in his container house, but he left his construction site as it was. It's not always visually appealing. A lot of you have pointed that out. I'm going to go with posts that are 8 centimeters in diameter, made of 4 millimeter steel, which I'll paint black. To match the kitchen, it will cost around 250. I just need to weld them to the ceiling and floor. For the kitchen, we'll leave 15 cm of sheet metal and install 2 posts. If possible, make sure to align the 2 posts with the helical piles so that the foundations properly support the load transfer. And now the big question is, for the 12 meters of living room, what am I going to do? I could put in a post. That should be more than enough because there's no weight in the living room. I showed you on the plan. With the framework doesn't rest at that spot, but I don't want to put in a post. So what I'm going to do is use the framework that will go over the top to suspend the ceiling. There you go. Instead of supporting with posts, I'm going to hang them from the beam. That will suspend them and I'll have a suspended ceiling. From a structural point of view, my house is pretty simple to build because I don't have an upper floor, I don't have a flat roof, and I'm not in a seismic zone. So, I still called in a structural engineering firm, but I didn't pay for a full structural study. I only paid for consulting. For comparison, Bruno, for his house, didn't call anyone. And Jan, he has an upper floor, a flat roof, and he lives in a seismic zone. He paid several thousand euros for his structural study. So there you go. It depends a bit on your needs and whether you're doing something very simple or more complicated, and also on how much reassurance you want. For me, it was straightforward, but I wanted reassurance from a structural engineering firm. So I still hired one. It cost me 1,200 euros. In conclusion, if we put aside the few days I struggled with the plasma torch, the entire process of cutting out the inside of my containers. So that's 48 meters of walls that are 2.70 meters high. It took me 4 days. There you go. There were 2 of us most of the time, with Bruno, with my brother, with Antoine. It's a job you can do on your own, but to move the sheets, it's better to have 2 people because that thing weighs a ton. In total, for the entire job, I used about 2230 millimeter discs at 3 euros each, just to remind you, and about 6125 millimeter discs at 1 euro each. The total comes to 220. 120 for the discs plus the cost of the grinders. That makes 340 euros for equipment to cut all my containers. Yeah, the 660 euros for the plasma torch wouldn't have been worth it. And if I had bought a plasma torch for 800 euros, it would have been even less worth it. So really go with the angle grinder. And with that budget, you still have to add the 2 posts that I'm going to install, which cost me 250 euros in total. I've only cut the interior wall so far. The doors, sliding glass doors and windows are still left to cut. It's a project that will represent about 20% of what I've already cut. So it will take 1 to 2 days at most to cut what I still have left to cut. And why haven't I done it yet? Because the next job will be sandblasting the containers. So I'm going to use high pressure sand to strip the paint so I can repaint it properly afterward. And I didn't want the sand to come out of the containers and pollute my whole property. So I thought I would sand everything, store the sand, recycle it, and then make my openings to the outside. I think it's actually a pretty good idea, that's it. Of course, I'll show you the sandblasting worksite and the windows, glass doors, and openings worksite in future videos. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss upcoming videos. Also, don't forget to share this series as much as possible, so that more and more of us can follow the adventure of building this container house. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. I'll answer everything I can. And that's it, thank you. Have a great rest of your day. This was Julian.